What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very well. We are looking at Guardian Druid today. We're gonna look at the bear, and we did Druid of the Claw this time around. So I have done both of the hero talent trees for Guardian Druid. I wanted to try what I think is going to be probably the less popular choice, which is probably Druid of the Claw. I think the Elun's Chosen one is like a little bit more, I don't know, it's kind of cooler, where you're like this galactic moon bear, you know. And you get Lunar Beam back, which hasn't been a cooldown we've taken in a long time. I can do another video on that. But I want to cover Druid of the Claw today. This is an interesting tree. Couple of nodes that I want to touch on. I'll show you some gameplay footage, and we'll get into everything that is Guardian Druid. First of all, the spec tree is basically the same, and if you're doing a Druid of the Claw build, you're going to want to basically go left side of the tree and pick up all the thrash bonuses, things like Tooth and Claw. Make sure that you're getting Blood Frenzy and your thrashes are giving you a shield from Ursox, and that includes getting Raise. If you do Elun's Chosen, you actually can skip a lot of this stuff. You don't need to do Raise because you're just doing a lot of arcane damage. But if you're going Druid of the Claw, I think this is a decent tree to look at here. You're going to get procs on Raise and Maul from Truth and Claw, which make them do a lot more damage, and then they give you bigger shields. And then you have extra cooldowns like Rage of the Sleeper and Incarn to keep you alive. And then you're getting auto attacks, and those auto attacks are going to be proccing your Ravage. Now, this is the new ability that you get with Druid of the Claw. It just replaces Maul, and your Maul essentially becomes like a Raise, but it does more damage, right? So Raise only does 95,000 physical damage to all enemies. Ravage does 234,000, and then it puts a dot on them. It does 118,000 to all other enemies, so a little bit more than Raise, but then it also puts a dreadful wound on them. So, and then that actually gives you damage reduction, which is very cool. So that's the whole tree. You're just literally like, your auto attacks are proccing Ravage. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's very passive, but it's good. Having passive trees isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually fine. There's a couple of interesting things about this tree. This choice node down here, you could take Strike for the Heart, which makes Shred Swipe, Mangle's crit chance and crit damage go up by 6%, and then Mangle heals you. That's a really good node. Or you could get 5 seconds off Pulverize. I think a 40-second Pulverize is not as good as the other talent. I really wish this had said 15 seconds off Pulverize. That would be really cool. I think having a 30-second Pulverize would be very compelling here versus the Strike for the Heart. Strike for the Heart is just like so strong that I just, you know, this, I would be compelled to take Pulverize if this was 15 seconds, but it's not. So that is what it is. And then in the middle here, we've got Ruthless Aggression, which increases your auto attack speed by 20% after using Ravage, which again, auto attacks are going to proc Ravage, so having more auto attack speed is very, very good for doing that. And then you have other auto attack things like Tooth and Claw, proccing from auto attacks as well. That's pretty important. So increasing your auto attack speed by 20%, not bad for both Ravage and Tooth and Claw. For Earth Warden, that has to do with auto attacks against you. That's not the same thing, but this is your main synergy here. Or you could take Killing Strikes, which might just be the better option. I don't know. Agility by 5% is already really crazy. Armor granted by Iron Fur by 20% is really strong. And then your first Mangle after entering combat makes your next Maul become Ravage. So in Mythic Plus, you're going to be entering combat like 25 times or something over the course of the dungeon, maybe more. So like, you're going to get a whole bunch of free Ravage procs, which is pretty cool. Now, in the moment-to-moment combat, you're going to get more Ravage procs from Ruthless Aggression and probably more Tooth and Claw procs, but Killing Strikes is just generically very strong. So I'm not entirely sure what the best one is. Killing Strikes might just be better. We'd have to wait and see kind of how that works out. Finally, there's the cat nodes on the left side of the tree. So like extra rage, extra energy, frenzy, regen, and increase your maximum health. And then it's this, Wild Shape Mastery. So Iron Fur and Frenzy Regen persist in cat form. When you transform from bear to cat form, you retain 80% of your bear armor and health. So then you combo that with this talent, Wild Power Surge, which says Mangle gives you Phalanx Potential at 6 stacks. The next time you go into cat form, you immediately get 5 combo points, and then you can press Ferocious Bite or Rip, and they do 100% more damage. So the idea is that you stay in bear form, and you mangle. You do 6 of them, and then you have this proc, and then you press Rake, and it immediately puts you in cat form if you have fluid form, right? And then you press Ferocious Bite right away, and then you go back to bear form. And while you're in that cat form for that moment, you're like, you know, almost as tanky as you would normally be as a bear. In Mythic Plus, I felt that this really wasn't a big deal. I tried it actually in Mythic Plus. It didn't really matter in my opinion. I think I was just doing less damage overall. If you were in a raid scenario, I could see this being actually helpful. That would be my thoughts on that one. But otherwise, I think it's a little bit useless. You just don't do enough damage with that transformation in Mythic Plus for it to matter. So yeah. Otherwise, though, like, this build felt really good to play. My damage and healing were great, I thought, for a tank. I'm pumping lots of damage. Maybe it's not blood DK levels, but blood DKs are very likely to get nerfed, I would say, in the near future, or at least the Deathbringer hero talent tree is probably going to get nerfed. But yeah, like, this felt really, really good. All I'm doing here is playing bear like I normally do. I'm just waiting for Ravage procs. And again, outside of my Incarn cooldown, they don't proc that much, but I just got one of this. So now I have a Tooth and Claw proc and a Ravage proc, so that you can consume the Tooth and Claw. It will apply the extra damage from Tooth and Claw to your Ravage. So watch, I'll hit Ravage here. Boom, there's a big Ravage, right? 225k, 211k, 111k. That was a big amount of damage. So if you get those Tooth and Claw procs because of the auto attacks, right, the talent that I took, then that's where you're gaining the benefit. But if you don't get a lot of procs, then you're just missing out on like 5% agility, and then every time you enter combat, getting a free Ravage because you press Mangle. The consistency of the other talent choice is probably better. Again, I need to do more testing on this and see if we can make our auto attack speed go a little bit quicker. Maybe that would help to fix that problem. Maybe make it worth it to take this auto attack thing. Here's another Tooth and Claw proc. It's good. I mean, Ravage is just good. It's doing lots of damage, but really, you're not doing anything different than you normally do, I would say. You're just going to pick a lot of the physical talents. You are going to get a whole bunch of shields from Ravage as well. It does contribute to Ursox, which is really nice because it's as if you're pressing Maul, right? So it does contribute to Ursox in that way. I'm going to press it right there, and then it just refreshed my Ursox. You can't see that, but it just refreshed my Ursox shield, which is really cool. So you're like super tanky, and you are going to be doing lots of damage, and you're just going to be playing bear. Like, I think this is maybe one of the most accessible tanks in the game. It really doesn't have a lot of complication. It's not like, you know, maybe a Vengeance DH where you're throwing down your sigils. You need to time those really well, and then you might need to kite away, you know, to be a little bit careful with that kind of thing. Like, it's nothing like that. Warrior, I think, is actually a very, very busy tank these days. It's sometimes hard to understand if you don't play it, but Warrior is like the highest APM tank, I think, in the game. So you're constantly really busy with that. And Prop Paladin has a lot to sort of juggle as well. Do you give yourself armor? Do you heal yourself with a Wog? You have to make some really serious, you know, choices there. With Guardian Druid, it really is just like press your buttons that are lighting up. And otherwise... Wait, what was that? Oh, I was in cat form there, right? Is that what's happening? Yeah. Otherwise, you know, just use your defensives. You have so many different defenses. 2 charges of Survival of the Instincts. You have Bark Skin. You've got Renewal. You've got your Frenzied Regens. You have a Regrowth with Cenarian, Dream of Cenarius, if you need to use that as well. So I think my favorite part... Well, there's the damage of Ravage right there, by the way. Tons of damage from Ravage. I think actually my favorite part about Guardian Druid is its ability to off-heal. You can take these procs you're getting from Regrowth and actually send those to other people, and it will hit them so hard. A Dream of Cenarius Regrowth just hits different, man. It is so strong. I think I just love that version. I switched into cat form to try. I was in double damage here, trying to get some damage, and I have my thing ready to go, my big Ferocious Bite. So I pressed it. There we go. Did about 1 million damage on that Ferocious Bite. I mean, that's cool. Then I did more kitty stuff. I should have had a rip there. I didn't have rip, but I don't know if it's more damage to really switch into kitty form like that, or if I could just do more damage as bear form. It's kind of hard to know, to be honest. But because if you get a Ravage proc when you're a cat, you can't use it because Ravage is a maul. You have to press maul. Now, you can put maul on your bar somewhere and then have it immediately switch back to that form. You can switch back and forth with fluid form instantly. You could do it that way, but I think realistically, in a Mythic Plus environment, I just think that you're better off staying in bear form, you know, both defensively and offensively. It's just not worth it, I don't think, to actually make that switch. So important to sort of understand that, I think. Oh yeah, this fight was like, we had somebody disconnect, or no, we had somebody just drop the group. And then again, the missed color fight is lagging like crazy, so I don't want to wreck this for you guys and just have you sit in the lag. Just know that we did end up killing her. And then we're just a little bit slower on the rest of this dungeon because we're 4-manning it instead of having that last DPS. We lost that person. They just disconnected, or they just left for some reason. But guys, this isn't much different. You're kind of doing what you normally do. It's just better. That makes sense. I mean, you're just getting a little bit more damage reduction. You don't get any additional magic damage reduction like you do in the Elun's Chosen one. Yeah, the Elun's one has magic. This is it here. Bear form reduces arcane damage taken and then all other magic damage taken. So potentially, like, the only real weakness of Bear that still remains is the fact that you are susceptible to magic damage. You don't have any direct way of mitigating magic damage other than your regular damage mitigation buttons. And then obviously your maximum health, constantly increasing your maximum health is going to do that as well. So I do think on the magic damage front, the Elun's Chosen tree is the better option because you get that magic damage DR, and then every time you press Lunar Beam, your mastery goes way up, which if you don't know, your mastery increases your max health as a bear. So when I press Lunar Beam as a bear, my health goes from 6 million to like 7.5 million. I literally gain 1.5 million health temporarily that enemies try to chunk through, right? And then once my Lunar Beam is over, then I go back to my normal health. But like while I'm in that cooldown, I have this inflated max health that sort of acts as a bubble. It's as if you have like a 1.5 million HP shield almost. You don't get that as the physical Druid of the Claw Guardian Druid, but you do get really good AoE damage, I would say, like an uncapped, oh god. Oh, there we go. Like an uncapped AoE damage going on with Guardian Druid. You really don't get that with the Elune tree as much. It's a lot more like Moonfires on single targets and spreading your Moonfires around. And then occasionally you press Lunar Beam, and Lunar Beam does give you some uncapped AoE. But the damage that's going to come out of Ravage for Druid of the Claw, Guardian Druid, I think is going to be much, much better on the uncapped AoE front. So if you're able to do really big pulls in Mythic Plus, I think it's going to be more beneficial for you on this hero talent tree. So something like some of the new dungeons like Priory of the Sacred Flame or the Cinder Brew Meadery, those have some gigantic pulls that you can try and pull off. And I think if you just pop Incarn and Thrash into Ravage, into Thrash into Ravage, like it's going to be really strong. I think that'll actually be super, super strong for you. So it's good. It's good on that front. They're just slightly different. And again, I think this is the simpler tree to play. I actually think the Elun's Chosen might be a little bit more boring. Like, it's actually kind of crazy because in the Elun's Chosen tree, you're going to fill with Moonfire. That's going to be your fill spell. You're literally just pressing Moonfire all the time, over and over again, into like, you know, Iron Fur, into a Lunar Beam. That's kind of all you're doing there. So with this tree, at least you do have a proc that you're kind of waiting for. And when you get it, you can press it. You know, I did take Rage of the Sleeper here as well. I mean, do I even press Rage of the Sleeper? I don't know why I didn't press it. I should have been pressing it. But you could also take the Pulverize cooldown. And then if you're in a raid scenario with this tree, I think that you could you could spec into Pulverize and have that really nice damage reduction against the boss. And again, it's a 40-second Pulverize instead of a 45. It's only a 5-second difference, but hey, if you're pressing it on cooldown over time, you are going to be able to change. You are going to be able to notice that difference, I would say, and have that DR up for a lot longer. The other thing in a raid scenario, of course, is that I think you're going to have that kitty weaving that you might be able to do if you want to. If you're interested in kitty weaving, it's very likely to be better in a raid scenario. I just don't see it being a place here in Mythic Plus. Even though I would retain 80% of my bear form a damage reduction like health and armor, it's just dangerous. Like in Mythic Plus, it's very dangerous to do that because you have so many different auto attacks that are coming to hit you. I just think it's way too dangerous. But in a raid, if you're off tanking, like you're not the active tank, go for it. You know, you can jump into kitty form, get a really nice rip on the enemy and a rake, and then you get a bunch of dot damage going up there, and then you have more dot damage from the ravage. It puts that dreadful wound on enemies, and then you have your own thrash. So you can really start piling up a bunch of dots, which is kind of cool. And that might be a legitimate way to eke out some more damage as a Guardian Druid in a raid. But yeah, that's how it looks, guys. Guardian Druid in the Mythic Plus environment. I will look at the numbers here. There's my damage overall. We've got Raise and then Ravage being right up there with Raise. It does a lot of extra damage. And then there's your Dreadful Wound. So 14.4 plus 8, that's about 20, let's call it 23%. 24, sorry. About 24% of our damage is going to be Ravage plus Dreadful Wound. So that's a lot of damage coming from your hero tree. That's actually very significant. And again, there's probably more damage you could even do with it, but it does provide a lot of damage when it comes to those AoE situations. And I think just having another button to press besides just Raise, like turning Maul into this Giga Juiced ability is kind of nice. Again, I do think that this is the kitty form buff I have up here. I just don't think it's worth it, to be totally honest with you. Healing wise, it should be a big Ursoc shields. There we go. So we've got Earth Warden and then Ursoc's Fury. Your Ursoc shields are huge because that Ravage does go into your Ursoc shield. It's a Maul, right, after all. So getting lots of healing from that, I'm telling you, you are just more than tanky. Earth Warden being absolutely disgusting. This is such a good talent. The last one I would say, I think, is that you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of your talent tree when you're going for Druid of the Claw. Because you're going to go over here and get the physical stuff, you can pick up, like, After the Wildfire and Dream of Cenarius. Again, you can see my regrowth healing here is like massive. Actually, 10% of my healing is regrowth. That's because of Dream of Cenarius. When you're doing the Elun's Chosen One, you have to go over and get Lunar Beam and Galactic Guardian, and then you really are going to want to also get Elun's Favored plus Fury of Elune. You need to get all of these. So your choices start to get really limited. I think you should actually come down and get Thrash as well, because you can make Thrash do arcane damage with Lunar Calling. So, like, I just want to show you how you have to, like, get rid of these, and then you basically have to take this and then come down here and get this, and then I think you'd have to scrap Circle of Life and Death, and you can get, you might have to scrap, like, After the Wildfire or Dream. I think you have to scrap this stuff over here to come down here, and then you want Moonless Night. So you have to, like, you have to dump some of the stuff you're getting in the middle of the tree, including things like Circle of Life and Death. I mean, there's probably a different way to build this, but this is one of the builds that I was kind of working on, and I was taking the Thrash stuff, again, because you can make Thrash do arcane damage, which means it's going to heal you from Elune's Favor. But I just think the physical side of the build with Druid of the Claw really simplifies everything and allows you to get extra bonuses that you can help out with your team, like Dream of Cenarius and After the Wildfire, and you make your dots do more damage more quickly, which is pretty cool. You can get Sleeper, you can get Incarn, you get Raise. It all just kind of really fits better together, I think, whereas the Moon Bear has to be a little bit more picky about their talents. But the bottom line is, guys, this is fantastic. If you're thinking about playing Guardian Druid, if you're wondering about wanting to tank maybe for the first time in your career in WoW, this is a great tank to get you started. I promise you, you will be able to pick up Guardian Druid really quickly, really easily. It's not that difficult, and it's a lot of fun to play, in my opinion. Lots of defensives. You're super sturdy. You can help out your team with extra healing. It's an awesome, awesome tank, and I would highly encourage you to play it if you want to. I think both of these trees work very well, maybe in different situations, but Druid of the Claw is perfectly fine. Totally passive, extra procs, and you just do your normal Guardian thing. You just kind of get a bunch of help on top of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you're thinking of tanking in the next expansion, in the War Within. I would love to hear from you down in the comments, and if you're seriously considering Guardian Druid, I think you should just go for it. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Love you all. I will see you in the next one.